Hi, well, welcome to FarmTech's Radiant In-Floor Heating webinar. Our presenter today is Brian Wallachy, and he is one of our senior national account managers. Today he's going to educate you on what radiant heating is, its benefits, and the different applications that it's perfect for. Brian can be a great resource for you, and if any of you have questions that are not answered today, I urge you to contact him directly. I'm now going to hand over the mic to Brian, and we'll get started. Thank you again for joining us.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us in our webinar today. Again, my name is Brian Wallachy. Glad to help out in any way I can. Just a little background about my experience here. I've been with FarmTech for quite some time, as you can see, as a senior national account manager. I have extensive experience in the radiant heat products and all the heating products here for any buildings, greenhouses that you may have. Previously coming to FarmTech, I have extensive consultative sales management experience, including logistics and warehousing, so I definitely understand the bottom line dollars that heating and cooling can reflect on a company's bottom line or even on a small business's bottom line. So definitely something that I can pass some information to. Definitely appreciate your attendance today. As you can see there, my contact information is down below, and I'd be happy to work with you on an individual basis after the fact if you need anything. Just want to welcome you to the presentation here. Just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about our company and our background. We're going to cover what radiant heat is in comparison to other types of heat and why to choose it. We're going to compare other types of heating forms that are available out there and do a system breakdown showing the different components of what we offer here at FarmTech. We'll also show you a completed system and talk about common applications for radiant heating, and some final words on why to choose FarmTech for your projects. So a little bit about FarmTech. There you can see in the picture, the top picture is our location where I'm at in South Windsor. We were not really too affected by Sandy there this weekend, so which is good news. And then our Iowa facility there in Dyersville, which is about 25 miles west of Dubuque. We've been in business for over 30 years here. We've done a lot of product development over the years. Our owner was a poultry farmer here in Connecticut. That's how we started the business. We do all the manufacturing and distribution in Dyersville, and our corporate headquarters here in South Windsor. And in between the two locations, it's usually we employ about a staff of 400 to 500 folks. So the main topic of why we're here today is radiant heat, and a great subject. We do a lot of it here in-house, and we even use it in our Iowa facility. But really a definition of what radiant is, it's typical hydronic heating or radiant floor heating is a method of heating a home, shop, or other structure with heat concentrated in the floor slab or in floor joists or in gravel. Special tubing, usually noted as PEX tubing, is embedded into the concrete foundation or into the wood joist, and we run a heated water through that, which will heat the thermal mass there that you have. The water runs through the tubing, comes back around to the boiler or the heat source, and then it gets reheated to continually provide that heat. Now, some simple ways or reasons why to choose in-floor heating. It produces an even heat. It's very comfortable. Your highest temperatures are at your floor and your feet. And a great way to look at this is to compare a building that has a sofa that's leather. You typically sit on it in the afternoon or in the evening time, and that sofa is cool to the touch. Well, in a radiant heated home or shop, that sofa would be warm and comfortable because it's touching the floor, so it radiates upwards. It's going to gently warm a building from the bottom up, which we're typically located at, and it's going to result in uniform heating. It's typically more energy efficient than baseboard heating and forced air heating, just because you don't need the amount of BTUs to heat an area, and also you don't need the actual high R values to insulate a building, so that's another nice feature there. Typical systems that use gas or propane use little electricity, and we do have electrical models available as well that can be used in combination. Again, the heat sources can be anything from standard natural gas, propane, oil talking about traditional heating, as you can see on the right-hand side, that's a traditional forced air unit. Basically, the heated air is going to rise, and you're going to have a stratification event, meaning all the hot air rises. Um, and if you have higher ceilings in a workshop or a cathedral ceiling in a house, that heat, which you're spending all that money to do, is going to go right to the ceiling, and where we walk around, work, do whatever we need to do is not as hot, so it's counterproductive. Now, in a radiant heating situation, which you see on the left-hand side, all the heat is concentrated at the floor level, and you don't have the stratification, so you have a really good section of a house or a workshop that shows you here, how the heat is transferred and where it stays. Now, when looking at building up a system or looking at what we do here, we have to take a few things into consideration in designing it. We do a preliminary heat load calculation on the house or the building that you're looking to heat. We talk about the heat source if you're willing to use natural gas, propane, electric in terms of your heat source. And then we talk about the primary and secondary plumbing, and then distribution, and talk about how many zones or different temperatures that you would like within that structure. Now, the one big thing when we talk about PEX tubing, and this is what we use to run the hot water out to, is the two versions that we carry. We offer a PEX B oxygen barrier tubing. It's red in color. We have half-inch, 5/8, 3/4, and 1-inch tubing that we offer folks. In most common applications, half-inch and 5/8 tubing is most common. It's definitely very easy to use in terms of laying it out. You can use it for hydronic heating or even domestic hot water if needed to. You can also use this for any type of water travel instead of copper, which is nice and easy to run for plumbers. A lot of folks are getting into it. It is ASTM approved, and you can see the rating there, and that's stamped right on our PEX tubing, and very popular. Typically, you're going to be mounting that right to your wire grid in terms of getting it ready for the concrete. The other type of PEX tubing we carry is a PEX aluminum PEX. It's an oxygen barrier tubing as well. It's orange in color. The nice thing is with this PEX aluminum PEX, when you lay it out, you don't need to secure it as much to your wire grid. It actually stays conformed, so it's a lot easier to install. It's a little bit more expensive, but it definitely will resist punctures during pouring when you're walking through the concrete, and definitely a lot easier to install. You don't have to nearly tie it down as much, which is really nice, and that's what I prefer to use. Now, when we talk about our heat sources here, we're going to go through a couple options. For this boiler, you'll see on the screen, we have a quiet side natural gas boiler. We do offer a propane conversion kit if you'd like to use propane. It's a condensing boiler, which means it has a efficiency rating of 93%. It is a modulating boiler as well, which means if there's only a small heat need, you would only be using a lower BTUs. We have these available in 100,000 BTUs, 120, and 199. 199,000 BTUs. We offer them in a dual purpose model, which means they can be used for radiant heating and domestic hot water, and also as a single use, either domestic hot water or radiant heating. But essentially it's going to be condensed, so there's a secondary heat exchanger, so it's going to recover the latent heat from the gases of the exhaust and run it through a secondary heat exchanger. Again, it's a very nice model. It's probably our most popular seller here. It's a very small unit in stature. You're going to get a unit that's very easy to use, LED controls on it, vibration free. It also comes with the longest warranty on the market, which is 10-year manufacturer's warranty, so it's one of the reasons it is quite popular. The other option we have, and this is an electric version, we carry HydroShark. These are made by Stiebel Eltron, which is kind of home base in Deerfield, Massachusetts. These are also modulating boilers. Again, you get the modulation down, so if you only have a small heat need, it's going to not use as many BTUs and effectively not as many kilowatts, if you're kind of watching your pennies there on the bill. There's no minimum flow rates, and typically with these boilers you do have to have recirculation going through them at all times. This has a high efficiency rating of 85%, so it does qualify for some grants and other discounts that are available Again, these are small and compact, so a lot of folks put these in a closet, underneath sinks, etc. Um, Provides a real small unit in terms of being able to put these in small areas or in a workshop closet. They do come with a 3-year manufacturer's warranty on parts. Very easy to access the heat exchanger and the elements, and also again LED and turn dial status in terms of setting your water temperature and necessities right on the front there, so very easy to use. And then lastly, the boilers we offer are the Takagi boilers, or Hydro Sharks that you see in our catalog. These are available both in propane or natural gas. They're also got a high efficiency rating of 85%. These are modulating boiler as well. You do have to use stainless steel flue pipe for this model, whereas on the quiet side you would use a 3-inch PVC. These essentially are going to be, again, an instantaneous hot water heater, so there's no tank. You're going to, again, have a small footprint, and all the components in this model are very easy to use. They have a 3/4 inlet and outlet, so which is pretty standard for radiant heat and or domestic hot water. And you're going to provide an endless supply of 120-degree water for domestic usage, or for other applications. It can be turned up to upward, I believe, of 170 degrees if you're doing some wash down, excessive, or things of that nature. So a great unit. Can help you size it up. In this model, we offer it in a 170, 199, and also a 140 in terms of the BTUs. There's also a Takagi Junior that's available, which has a little bit lower BTU range. The one thing that FarmTech that we do here that is really great, we have pre-assembled panels, and essentially this is the guts of the operation. This is a pre-assembled panel that comes to you already manufactured and made up for it. You don't have to do any of the sweating of components. This is going to be an example of a primary panel. Starting from the top right, you'll see that we have a pressure gauge that's connected to an air separator and an air expansion tank. And as we move down the left-hand side, you'll see our shut-off flanged power pump. That's a 3-speed pump, 125th horsepower, and typically they put in either Taco or Stiebel Electron pumps for that. As you come down the right side, you'd be heading out to the system, and when the system's not operating, that pump on the left will be recirculating water throughout the boiler, so that'll give you your minimum flow through the boiler. And as you come out the right side, you'll have another pressure gauge, so you can monitor the system, and a Y filter if there's any particulate that happen to get into the system. So it's a really great panel. Again, it's plug and play, so it does have shark bite fittings on it, which means you don't have to do any sweating or worry about any types of threaded not working. You could use copper on those pipe fittings. You could use PEX. I generally send out a little extra PEX, so you can use that in between the boiler and this panel. Again, very easy to use. Use 1/2-inch lag bolts in the wall, and actually very small in stature as well. This can be hung right below your boilers. So one thing that connects these units to basically determining the temperature is our temperature control. Essentially, there's 2 models that we offer, one being a floor sensing thermostat and then also a pump tickler. We typically use in most scenarios the pump tickler thermostat. It's a non-programmable thermostat that's going to be wired into the control box on your Pro panel. And essentially this is going to take your air temperature and tell the system when to turn on and off the pumps, and also when the boiler is going to need to be fired up. The floor sensing thermostat is popular in greenhouse applications and also like solarium applications where there's high windows or when a lot of sun coming in, because if you have a lot of sun coming in beating down on a thermostat, it can give a false positive result just due to the radiant heat of the sun that's put off. So typically that floor sensing thermostat will be used in those scenarios. Again, it's a non-programmable unit. Very easy. We prefer everything straightforward, not complicated with a lot of programs, and we find out that works best. So that thermostat that you would wire in is going to go into one of these plumbing panels. This is a secondary plumbing panel. This will show you that on these units, the green box, that's the Taco controller that your thermostats will be wired to. You'll be able to plug that in right into a standard see the number of zones depending on how many temperatures or thermostats that you're going to run. So in the top left, you'll see that's a 3-zone system. So you'd have 3 thermostats that'd be pumping water out to the system. And as you can see in the center and on the right, you'll have 2 and 4-zone setups. These secondary panels, again, have quick connect fittings, shark bites, and that they're very easy to use. On the bottom right, you'll see that's one of our panels for our quiet side boilers. The quiet side boilers, again, are high efficient condensing, and also come with an internal expansion tank and recirc pump. So that would be a specific panel that you see on the right side there, and that's why you don't see the other controls on there. But again, very easy to use, plug and play, and very simple. So it's really nice for any contractors that are looking to get into radiant heating, or if you're a first-time do-it-yourself type of person. We make it very simple. We take a lot of the guesswork out of the plumbing, etc. Now, when we talk about what's going to be going out from those panels, we're going to run into either one or multiple manifolds. So these manifolds are going to be connected to your PEX tubing and connect to your system. Essentially, we carry exclusively Caleffi manifolds. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10 zone panels as stock units, but we can special order any panel upward of 13 loops, which is really nice. You can use either half-inch, 5/8, 3/4 inch tubing, or even 1 inch if you had to off of these panels. It comes with a 1-inch inlet and outlet. The nice thing on these manifolds, they are definitely high grade. You get 2 shut-off points on each one of the manifolds. You'll see the hot incoming and return cold, red and blue. Each loop has loop control flow, so you'll have a meter that you'll be able to tell in each individual loop what your flow rate is, and you can adjust that. The other thing that this manifold has is on the right-hand side, you'll see the air separator. So we really want to try and eliminate any oxygen that could potentially be in the system, and that also helps, just like on our Pro panels. And the nice thing with Caleffi is this is sold as a pair, so you don't have to buy 2 units. We do offer actuators for these as well, so that can act as a zone break as well, and that's what you'll see in the bottom right. That bottom right actuator, that's a telestat. So if you're looking to zone a small area off, we would use one of those telestats. And up on the right, you'll see our fittings for these. These are compression fittings, so you don't have to do any sweating or any crimping of any way to attach to PEX tubing. So that's a nice feature too that we carry here in-house. Here you'll see kind of all set up together of a secondary plumbing panel to the manifolds. This is again a 2-zone system. You'll see the Taco control on the right-hand side, connected to the 2 pumps that you plug in. Now you'll see on the top pump, it'll be going into the hot side. You run water out. That's 2, 4, 5, both 5 out loop systems, and generally pretty basic. We have all the elbows that you can see in there as well to offer, and that we would send those out. But very compact, again, pretty much all done up for you, plug and play, which is really nice. Here you would see a completed system starting from the top left. This is a HydroShark model connected to a zone panel. That's going to be a primary plumbing panel up at the top. Then you'll see the second section of this is going to be the secondary zone panel. Now this zone panel is going to pump out to the 2 loops. These are again 5-loop manifolds, and as you can see, there's a representation of a building there, which shows the hot water being shot through the loops and returning back through the manifolds and back to the boiler to continue to be hot. And typically, the goal is to have the water temperature coming back from a loop about 10 to 15 degrees cooler as it went out. So essentially, as that water pumps through, it lets the heat radiate and comes back, just like a home radiator would, but just a little bit different setup. So that would be a completed system there. In terms of how you run the loops, there's different software and guides out there that allow you to kind of get an idea how you should lay out your building. But typically what you would do is you'd run your hot lines along your exterior walls first, and as you do that, you want to be a little bit tighter on your spacing, and as you work into the middle of the structure, you'd actually space those out a little bit further away. The exterior walls is where all your heat loss is going to be, where your windows might be, where a door may be. So actually see our warehouse out in Iowa where we installed radiant heating, which is a great system out there. It's very comfortable for our employees and the welders that do a lot of our cover work and the welding work for us. We do single and multiple zone setups again. Um, I can help with any basic BTU needs for any types of structures. For more in-depth type of setups for residential houses, you may want to kind of consult a registered HVAC, but I can definitely help you out with the materials. The nice thing that I work with a lot of contractors that we do is we provide materials for stages. So that way, if you were building a new building or barn, you can do it in a one-stage, two-stage type of operation where you can put the PEX in, put all the tech foil down that you may need, and through the manifold, so you can pressure test and pressurize during your pour, have that ready there, and then further on down the line, when you're ready to get hooked up for the heater, the boiler, and the other components, we can do that. So a lot of contractors do that. That's really nice. And if you're looking to build your own building, this would be a good option because it does leave you the option for radiant heating down the road. We do offer some boilers, again, that can do domestic hot water. So if you have any bathrooms, showers, we can calculate some of the heat needs that are available for that. And we do have a lot of detailed resources available in terms of instructions with the boiler panels, etc. You do get a DVD that will go over everything, so which is it's very good. And obviously, I'm available at any point, so it's definitely a great way to kind of get started on your project. So one of the more common systems that we've been running lately is in greenhouses. We've had the most success with folks installing concrete slabs. We've had a lot of folks report back over the years of the usage how much they've saved in heating costs. A lot of folks are putting some of their potch trays, etc., either on the ground on the concrete slab or really close to the ground on their benches, and so they're taking advantage of that heat that's concentrated down at the floor level versus being up on a 30-inch table and maybe waiting for a forced air unit to be kicked on and having the hot air blown across them. So this is a very popular method right now. I have a specific grow in Oregon that's been very successful in his multiple greenhouses, and I think they're up to about 7 greenhouses that they've now converted over from Modine heaters, which they've significantly impacted their bottom line because they don't use as much heating fuel, etc. Um, the nice thing is in greenhouses, you'll have an even heat, so you won't have any cool spots. You're not waiting for an area to be warmed up versus being able to feel a forced air heat on those forced air units. Um, you definitely have the option of growing all year round with a radiant heated greenhouse, which is really nice. It can bring your crops to market even earlier than other folks, or out of season, so which is extremely huge, especially for some of the smaller operations. So it's seen a lot of success stories with that. A lot of customers have experimented with PEX in the soil right in their raised beds. The PEX tubing isn't UV treated, so it does need to be covered in some way, and a lot of folks are actually doing their plugs right in the soil and putting the PEX right in there and running not necessarily 110-degree water, but a little bit lower just to keep the root mass warm. And some people, as you can see, have experimented with grow tables as well. So that's a very common application as we move forward. And some people use a combination of radiant heat and forced air heating and have lowered their fuel costs that way as well. So one thing that we also do again is domestic hot water. Our Stiebel Eltron models, we have an Aqua Power is for domestic hot water, and then the Takagis are all available to run domestic hot water. The nice thing is I can kind of calculate based upon how many shower heads, how many sinks, if you use a laundry machine, and give you a rough estimate of how many gallons per minute you would need through a tankless boiler to be able to support your fixtures. Um, we do have one model. It's our Quiet Side DPW. That stands for dual purpose water. That can actually do both hydronic heating and a closed loop, or a closed loop hydronic, and also an open loop domestic hot water, which is actually a very popular model. Again, a lot of folks potentially in their workshop have a bathroom or a shower head in there, and they want to be able to have the option of running it. And you don't need to specifically heat water when you're not using it, and that's what cold water tanks do. And so when you talk about efficiency and what's running, that's an important factor. Another really common application is snowmelt applications, and we've been doing more and more of these. You do have to run a separate heating system for snowmelt because you're going to run a lot hotter water temperature to run through the outside ground. You're also going to use a higher glycol percentage, so that's why we do separate these. These are increasingly popular for new home developments. I'm working with a couple folks in the New Jersey, New York area that are developing new homes, and throughout their whole development, in everybody's driveway, their walkways, and also their sidewalks, they're installing radiant heating. So it's actually pretty neat. They're doing 126 units, but they've got started off with a couple of their demo models, and everybody's really walked through has been pretty impressed to walk outside on a snowy day here in New England and see that the driveway's clean. So that's pretty huge. We do have an option that you can run timers on these, or we have some options of snow melt control, meaning it'll automatically sense the snow on the driveway. So very, very, very cool. And I've had a lot of customers who are contractors who do this. So if you happen to have a project of that nature, by all means, let me know. I can actually get you some special pricing for those kind of high volume projects as well. And some basic reasons why to choose us. Here I'm not the only account manager. We have a whole host of folks here that are specifically trained on all of our products. We have a 30,000 product lineup, very strong background. We kind of hail ourselves as a one-stop shop, and even beyond that 30,000 that we carry in the catalog, if there's specific needs, we can special order them. So which is really neat. Even for when it comes down to radiant heating, we can do that. We have quite an extensive background. We also do offer financing, which is a great thing. We have terms as upward of seven years, no interest. We do as low as a 0% down payment, which is great. And we really pride ourselves in being able to do that. Not everybody really gets paid on a weekly basis like someone who punches a time clock. A lot of our folks work in the ag and hort business, so we really do have to offer those. And you can take advantage of that as a contractor if you have a project or you don't have the working capital to invest in a project of this nature. So we have a nice option of a no interest, same as cash too, and some other options based upon different pricing levels of what you're looking to spend. So by all means, I can cover those with you at any point. So please give us a call on that. We're going to be kind of concluding the Radiant Heat webinar. I appreciate your time. We're going to go into the question and answer time here. Again, there's my contact information. Feel free to email me or send me a voicemail or call me and just let me know what kind of project you have going on. If it's something you're thinking about, if it's kind of doing a comparison to another company that does some radiant heat. We have an extensive background here, and we feel real confident that we offer a really great option for a lot of folks, and you can do it yourself, which is really nice. And really appreciate you spending some time with me today. Thank you for attending. Again, we're in the question and answer period, and I do have some questions that did arise. We did have a question about radiant heating and soil. Again, we don't have a full extensive background in an actual report or something of that nature, but we have a lot of folks who do the radiant heating and soil where they're burying the PEX tubing right in the ground in raised beds or in gravel. The one thing I could tell you is that the gravel in the soil doesn't radiate the heat as well as a concrete slab would, but it definitely keeps the heat at the root mass. So you can keep lower air temperatures in a greenhouse, but your plants will still absorb the right amount of heat for growth. And so for off-season or early season or late season growing, this could be a potential winner. Again, I don't have any specific examples, but it is something that I've had a lot of customers call up and say this is what they're going to do. I just haven't had report back on how well it's worked for those folks. But I can imagine running that kind of heat. Some people do incorporate solar systems for that and to bring that solar heated water through the lines. But we have had some folks do that. I just don't have a setup specifically set up for greenhouses or high tunnels that have those raised beds like that. All right, so we have a question that came in. Can you use multiple boilers in a system? Yep, our Takagi boilers are actually very commonly daisy chained. You can piggyback them if you need higher BTU ratings for your area or higher water temperatures if you're doing some sort of wash down or for domestic hot water. So definitely a great question, but typically the most popular models are the Takagis or the HydroSmarts there that you see. Let's see the next question here. What do you recommend as loop length slash spacing? So actually, great question. When we talk about running the PEX tubing, um, for half inch, we typically recommend 300 foot or less loops. For 5/8 inch tubing, we recommend 400 foot lengths of the tubing or less. And for 3/4, we recommend 500 foot or less. And that's just based upon that theory that we want that water temperature to be between 10 and 15 degrees colder when it comes back, so the boiler is only having to heat that water at delta of 10 to 15 degrees, which is important. In terms of the spacing, depending on your application, we might recommend a 6-inch, 8-inch, 12 or 15-inch spacing. Kind of the theory is, again, along your exterior walls you have tighter spacing, and as you work your way into the building, your spacing can be spread out a little bit, so you have an on average type of spacing. Thank you. Another question is, do you need insulation under the concrete? So yes, we definitely recommend insulation under there. A lot of folks in my contractors will use our Techfoil insulation. The most common one is our reflective bubble white poly. The reflective will go down. This will double as your vapor barrier as well, which is really nice. And that foil will reflect any of the heat upward. The white poly faces up, and that's what you would pour on. And in northern climates, we typically recommend using a foam board, either a blue or a pink board, underneath this tech foil for the insulation value. Some people actually just run along the exterior walls or underneath the whole slab. But yes, we definitely recommend that, especially for buildings that you're going to keep warmer temperatures or residential homes. That's a definite deal. Let's see, we have another question here. Can one system heat 2 floors? So we can definitely zone systems. It all depends if you'd like them to be 2 temperatures. And it all depends if you're talking about running 2 floors as in a basement floor in concrete and then an upstairs above that floor. Typically we would recommend the PEX tubing in both layers. So the heat doesn't rise as much with this type of heating. So just a 1-floor slab radiant system couldn't necessarily get enough heat rise, especially going through the floor joists, and your subfloor wouldn't provide enough heat to heat that first floor. Technically, I think that's what you're referring to, but common question. I'd be more inclined to offer you a second zone with a second thermostat and just run tubing underneath the joist. The last question here that came up is, do electric boilers work for large installations? They definitely do. The one thing I would tell you is that there's some higher kilowatt needs. You do have to look at what we have in the book there. So we'd go up to 122,000 BTUs on an electric boiler, although that will require 3 dedicated 70 amp breakers. So when you look at what you have in your box at your home or your prospective site, you would want to have to account for that. So a lot of times it's just as easy to get higher BTUs with propane and not take up so much space in a box. That would pretty much definitely bring you into like a 200 amp service, so you can have enough service for whatever else you do in there. But in a nutshell, they can. But you might want to weigh the options depending on what kind of electrical needs you have, and you'll see that it's broken out in each kilowatt and amp needs on each one on those Aqua Powers and the Hydro Sharks. So.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for our Radiant In-Floor Heating webinar. And a big thanks to Brian for being an excellent presenter. At this point, we don't have any more questions coming in, so we're going to conclude the webinar. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and you can reach Brian at his direct extension, 1-800-327-6835, extension 108, or you can always email him at bwallachy@farmtech.com. Again, I thank you very much and have a wonderful day.